Hello, my name is Arjun Singh, and this is the first episode on my new podcast on YouTube called Natural Disasters. On this episode, we'll be talking about the Turkey and Syria earthquake of 2023. Let's get into it. An enormous earthquake that devastated Turkey and Syria on March 18th, 2023, left a path of destruction and chaos in its aftermath. The earthquake, which registered a 8.7 on the Richter scale. 8.7 on the Richter scale is very high because the Richter scale is a form of measuring earthquakes through intensity, from 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. So 8.7 on the Richter scale was one of the strongest to have struck the area recently, and its effects could be felt all around the Middle East. The epicenter of the earthquake was near the Syrian border in eastern Turkey. The quake's intensity was so great that it severely damaged Turkey and Syria's infrastructure, making tens of thousands of people homeless and deprived of basic necessities such as shelter, food, and water. Van and Diyarbakir were the Turkish cities that were most severely affected by the earthquake, with entire neighborhoods left to crumble. The city of Van, which had a population of over a million, was particularly heavily struck. Several landslides were also triggered by the earthquake, adding to the devastation and complicating rescue attempts, which were sent by the Turkish government. With the military and emergency services working around the clock to provide help and support to people affected by the earthquake, the Turkish government immediately organized to respond for the disaster. Emergency supplies such as food, water, and medical equipment were delivered to those in need, and rescue teams were sent out to the worst affected districts. Nonetheless, despite the government's best efforts, the disaster scope was so large that it well exceeded the capacity of many of the nation's resources. There were reports of the shortage of essential supplies such as food, water, and blankets, and hospitals swiftly reached capacity. Several people were compelled to spend their nights without appropriate shelter from the elements of the street or in improvised shelters. The effects of the earthquake were felt in Syria across the border, where the city of Aleppo sustained major structural damage. Years of civil war had decimated Aleppo, long one of Syria's biggest and wealthiest cities, and the earthquakes have only made matters worse. The earthquake has only made the poor living condition of many city residents who were already residing in temporary shelters worse. Many people have criticized the Syrian government for its sluggish response to the disaster and for neglecting to adequately support those who were harmed by the earthquake. Many others reported that they did not receive any assistance at all and that there were reports of lengthy lineups at relief distribution location. The earthquake has also brought attention to Syria's ongoing humanitarian issue. A million of people remain displaced and are confined by besieged areas. The calamity has added to already burdened resources and assistance organizations and humanitarian groups who are battling to help those in need. There have been requests for further international assistance and support for both Turkey and Syria in the wake of the earthquake. The United Nations and other international organizations have committed to helping the afflicted region. A public donation has been requested. The region's government and the people's levels of preparedness for natural disaster has also come under scrutiny in the wake of the earthquake. Turkey has had a number of significant earthquakes recently, including a terrible quake in 1999 that claimed the lives of nearly 17,000 people. Despite this, there are worse than the government that not done anything to get ready for the next major earthquake. because much of the country's structure and infrastructure are still not built to resist earthquakes. The earthquake in Syria has brought to light the difficulties facing a nation that has been decimated for years of war and warfare. There are worries for the government lacking resources and capacity to respond to natural disasters because of the extensive damage that years of fighting has done to the nation's infrastructure. Ultimately, the 2023 earthquakes in Turkey and Syria served as a devastating reminder of the devastation that can result from natural disasters. Thank you.